Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Laura, aka Perplex QT. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you are not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe if you want to chat. And welcome everyone. So, I'm going to be talking about a couple things tonight. I'm going to start out with the Brian Laundrie stuff. Only because if you were over on Molly Go Lightly stream, you need to unwind a bit after what we just witnessed and after what we just saw. So if people want to know what I played at the end, it was the Satanic Bible stuff. That's probably why Kay Smalls got mad and ran off, but it was only a joke. So, if you were over on Molly's stream, you would know that Miss Harmony, who I have no problems with, thought that Brian Laundrie actually contacted her. Okay. So we had talked about it, and I tried to explain to her that Brian Laundrie would not contact you, would not contact anybody, and don't take it personal. She's a very nice person. Might be a little gullible, but she's a very nice person. And I feel the need that I need to debunk a couple of things that I heard and that I hear all the time. Miss Harmony and Kay Smalls. So, but I like Miss Harmony and I like Kay Smalls, so I'm not going to, combat them or come down on them. But I was just a little surprised that they kind of bought into it. And under the premise of what if. Yeah, that's not a what if. So what if is like, what if, I dye my hair blue? What if I pierce my belly button? Those are what ifs. The most wanted man in America is not contacting a small YouTuber. Not going to happen. So, yeah, it was a bit over the top. A bit over the top. But, hey, it is what it is. I'm cool. That's the way she thinks, so be it. But I just wanted to explain to her that, that's just not going to happen. Now, but there are some things that I did hear throughout the day that I have to debunk because I'm not a cop and I'm not an attorney, but I do understand the law. I played a lawyer for 3 years. I do know the law, and I really combine common sense with the law to know certain things, and I don't know everything. You'll never hear me say that I do, like ever. But there are certain things that you can just draw a conclusion to. That'd be one of them. Another thing I heard today, which seems that she was in a chat and heard this, that I wanted to debunk. And I don't even know where the chat got it from. So a girl that was on Molly's panel in the beginning, I forgot her name. Amanda's Vibe or something? Vibe? She was saying that she was in a chat when Brian Enton was following Chris Laundrie back home. I don't know what chat she was in, but she was saying that the chat she was in, they were saying that he was bringing them to, or they were following to somebody else's, another property they own. I honestly don't know where that person came up with that or why a chat ran with it, because that's completely false. Brian Enton said, we watched it. Brian Enton said that they were following him home. So I don't know where this conspiracy theory came from, but she said she heard it in whatever chat she was in. I thought that was pretty odd. No, Brian Enton said he was following him home. That's where they were going. There seem to be a lot of crazy conspiracy theories, which I don't really understand, and I do not want to bring them into my chat, but I will debunk some of them. Just some of the things I've heard, like people are trying to make this Chris Watts 2.0. The way he killed her, nobody knows. If people want to speculate how he killed her, what he did to her, I'm all for it because none of us know anything. We can't debunk it and we can't bunk it and you can't prove it. So those kind of theories, anybody's guess. And nobody can say otherwise. But I keep hearing about the girls in, it was Joseph Morris, Another Liar. Brian Enton didn't say that. Brian Enton said they were going home. We were watching it. Another thing is about the girls. The Kylan and I forgot the other one's name. Don't hate me. The couple that were killed. The FBI has said immediately they're not tied. Brian is not a serial killer. So they obviously know who did it or have an idea of who did it or the circumstances surrounding it in order to know that it ruled out Brian. They weren't in that area when the two were killed. Brian was also not alone. So I understand that people want to make a conspiracy theory out of it, but there's none to be had. They're not involved. Brian is not a serial killer. Now, if you want to be able to connect their death with maybe the death of the other hikers that were found, maybe that's connected. But to say that possibly Brian's involved or Brian's a serial killer, no. The theories are so far beyond the realm of reality that people are coming up with. Again, it falls under what I consider circumstantial evidence that, yeah, we can make it fit. We can make Brian a serial killer. We can place Brian in places that made him kill every person that's missing. We can do that. And if you piece enough together, you can do it to the point it's going to make sense. And that's what people are doing. It's a very dangerous road to go down. And that's the kind of circumstantial evidence that I don't go for and that I won't deal with. Because you can make anybody into something. All you have to do is piece it together hard enough. And that's what they're doing. And it's wrong. And I beg people not to do that and not to go down that road. You have to have some faith that even before they found Gabby's body, they knew that this wasn't connected. There's a reason they do that. There's a reason they know that. And I'm not saying they're always right or they know, everything about everything, because they don't. But you have to have a little faith in them saying that it's definitely not connected. They may not be able to rule who did it, but if they can rule it out that quick, they have their reasons. You have to have faith in that. So, putting it on Brian could mean that the real killer is sitting there laughing and getting off scot-free. For all we know, the real killer was murdered. The real killer shot himself. We don't know. But they obviously know something we don't. And I just feel like it's a very dangerous ground to go down, or dangerous road to go down, when you just start coming up with conspiracy theories out of nowhere and want to tie everything together. It's just dangerous. It's dangerous for Brian. It's dangerous for the actual killer. It's dangerous for the future of the people there. People are scared there. They should be. Whoever was on this campground brutally murdered these two women for absolutely no reason. For no reason, these women were killed. And to think that that murder is still out there, if you peg it on Brian, then that person who did it gets to do it again because everybody thinks it's Brian. That's why it's a dangerous road to go down. Weren't they in a tent? Yes. No, they were shot. Brian Enton has a video on his Twitter. I'm going to go there next. How much of my candles? They range 32 up to 50, I believe. Tonight was wild on Molly's Live. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. There could be a number of murders in a city that Ellie says are not connected. Then one day, okay, we have a serial. True, but that's not what's happening here. Brian is not a serial killer. He's not. I can't tell you who Brian truly is, but a serial killer, he's not. If he was a serial killer, there would be signs. He would have been violent in the past. There's more to it. They range from 20 and up. I have candles that are 20. I don't know why I said 30. Oh no, I know you didn't say it was Brian. I'm saying that people want to automatically peg that it's Brian, and it's not. That's not. You know, like I said, we can create a conspiracy theory about anybody, about anything. We could say, you know, the mailman did it, but you have to look at other circumstances to show that it's not. She hasn't dug up the laundry. That was ridiculous. I didn't hear the whole thing. I only heard a piece of it, but I'm not going there. All right. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to show a video. I was told this video kind of shows where that theory kind of came from about him looking in other places or him going somewhere.
That Christopher Laundrie, Brian's dad, might be going out to assist law enforcement at the reserve. And that is exactly what happened bright and early this morning, but still no sign of Brian Laundrie. We haven't seen him leave the house in days, but early this morning, Brian Laundrie's father, Christopher, came out of the house carrying a plastic bag, got into his truck, and went to the Carlton Reserve.
This is the Laundrie truck. This is the one that tows the camper. This is the one that's always in front of the house.
The truck parked, and Christopher Laundrie got onto this all-terrain vehicle with law enforcement, heading out into the vast swamp to look for his son, searching with police and the FBI on foot. 3 hours later, the vehicle Laundrie was riding in was towed out, and he drove away in his red truck.
Did you see anything? Christopher, did you see anything?
Laundrie was being tailed by FBI agents, so we followed to see where they were going next.
So they're going to some kind of other neighborhood.
A few miles from the reserve, Laundrie stopped his truck next to the FBI SUV where there was some kind of discussion in this neighborhood. And then they were on the move again before he returned back to his house.
Mr. Laundrie, did you see anything at the reserve? Anything to say about what you saw at the reserve? Any sign of your son, Mr. Laundrie?
We later learned from the Laundrie family attorney, Stephen Bertolino, that Laundrie was asked to show police the trails and places he's hiked with his son. There were no discoveries, but the effort was helpful to all. It seems the water in the preserve is receding and certain areas are more accessible to search. The entire Laundrie family is grateful for the hard work of the dedicated members of law enforcement that have been searching the preserve for Brian over the last few weeks. Hopefully, Brian will be located soon. Okay, so still no sign of Brian Laundrie tonight, and it's unclear if this was sort of a one-time thing or if Christopher Laundrie will be going back to the swamp tomorrow.
Brian, you mentioned that they stopped at this neighborhood along their route today. Do we know why? Any connection?
We don't know why, but it was interesting because when we were following them when they left the swamp, we assumed he'd be headed back to the house. They made a different turn, went away from the house, went into that neighborhood. It appeared there was a specific reason they were there, but we still don't know why.
Well, and we know that they know the world is watching them right now, but are police outside the house round the clock, and when they leave, are they being followed?
It does appear they're being followed when they leave. Several times they've left the house. We've seen unmarked cars following them. There's no marked vehicles outside the house tonight, but I'd be surprised if there isn't someone somewhere keeping an eye on things.
Brian, we keep getting a lot of questions about Dog the Bounty Hunter, and he was following some leads out in that campground. I know you're in touch with his team. Any updates on that tonight?
I was just texting with his team right before we came on. They say he is still in Florida. He's working new leads, but they say nothing significant at this point.
And as you know, this case continues to attract so much attention online, not just here in the U.S., but across the country. What are some of the biggest questions that you're getting from people right now about the case, about the search?
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, the interest level is unreal, and it's not just in this country. I've noticed a ton of interest, especially in the UK and Australia. So many people wondering where Brian Laundrie is, so many people wanting to know if he's still alive and if he's actually on the run right now.
Invested.
Okay, so my theory on that, Sissy, I think he's still alive. I think if he was dead, he would have been found. Or remnants of him would have been found. Like I said earlier, if he was eaten by a crocodile or an alligator or some shit like that, there would be remnants of him somewhere. So that's why I tend to believe he is still alive. Will he end up killing himself? That I don't know. To me, there's a good chance he will. He's not going to want to spend the rest of his life in jail, and it really depends on how long he can go. Do I believe that he might commit suicide once it's all caved in on him? Yeah, I do. But I don't think he's dead yet. I'm sure his parents are worried. But, I don't know why Sissy's comment was deleted. Now, on the flip side, it wasn't, from what I understand and what I just learned today, that it wasn't Christopher that aided this. This was the FBI that asked him to help. So it's not like all of a sudden he got a conscience and he's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to help find my son. No, the FBI contacted him. So that to me makes a difference. Was this what we just watched? Okay, another thing Brian posted was about the hitchhiker. Now, he did say that he just talked to Dennis the hiker again. He met with the FBI yesterday for 45 minutes. He said they took a lot of notes and are taking him seriously. More on the day's developments at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh. Hold on.
Or drug use, you know, they would go.
Hold up. Joe Petito was on Banfield tonight. But I don't know if it's uploaded yet. It would have just ended. She had Petito, John Walsh, Beth Holloway, and Aaron Reunion. I don't think it's uploaded yet, though.
One of my guests tonight visiting the site in 2012 where the body of her daughter Samantha was found 10 years earlier. Aaron, for the rest of us watching that, it's very, very hard to process how you did it, how you make it through that, how you made the 10 years. And it's a simple question. I don't know if there's an easy answer. Does it get easier?
Yes, definitely. definitely. Those first, what the Petito family is going through right now, the first several months, it's so surreal. Losing your child in a sudden death is incredibly difficult to handle. And for it to be a violent death is a whole nother layer. And then you add the international interest and the media and all of the questions coming at you from every possible source. It's overwhelming. And I mean, I remember very vividly thinking it's like I was walking underwater. Like the sounds were muffled, the visual, everything was gray. You know, it takes a long time to process this, and yes, you get better at it. You definitely do. You learn how to anticipate triggers, and you will learn. I really tried hard. I had to really focus for my young children at home to be able to think about my child in a way that reminded me of her joy and not just how she was taken and not just that she was gone, but to be able to remember them in a way that brings you back to the present and the gift that they will always be in your life, that it never goes away. And they are with us in their own way.
Okay, there's got to be more to that, because I'm sure she's not the only one that talked. Why are there so many former FBI agents around? If anyone can find a whole Banfield clip, let me know. That's the only clip I'm seeing. I guess it's not out yet. Because that's the only 2-minute clip I can find. I wanted to see it too.
We're joined right now by Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield. Thank you for being with us very bright and early this morning. Ashley, you have a special guest on. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, hi, Adrian. It's great to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me. We're going to be speaking with Joe Petito tonight, and this has been just an extraordinarily difficult time for the Petito family. I think, as anyone who's watching right now, Adrian, can imagine. First, they had to go through the ordeal of not knowing where their daughter was for weeks on end. Couple that with not being able to tap into the #1 resource that might have been able to help them. That would be Brian Laundrie's family. They were stonewalled at, every step of the way. And then being given this just horrendous news that a sweatshirt had been discovered in the Wyoming park where they were last spotted. And that sweatshirt being a special sweatshirt of Gabby's. So just horrifying news for this family, what they've been through.
Joe Petito is Gabby's father. Is that correct?
Correct. So one of the things that's really unique about this family, maybe confusing for folks that don't have mixed families, I have the same mixed family where 4 of us parent our children together. It's the same for Gabby's family. Joe has a wife named Tara, and then Gabby's mom, Nicole, has a husband named Jim. And that stepdad, Jim, went out to Grand Teton and actually was there when the sheriff's deputies told them that they had discovered the remains and that the sweatshirt was likely Gabby's. And it was Jim that got on the conference call, Adrian, and told the rest of the family back home in Long Island that indeed it was Gabby. He also built that tiny little memorial in the grand shadows of those mountains to Gabby, a stone cross and a small collection of flowers.
It's just, this story has captured so many people's attention. You mentioned the blended families. I think most of us come, I mean, at least we have somebody in our family who is just like this. But keeping all of the names straight, there are so many people who have come out in support of the Petito family. And of course, they've been very vocal throughout this investigation. They publicly have said that they believe that Laundrie's parents know far more than what they're sharing with anybody, including investigators. But it sounds like the Laundrie's father has actually been asked to go and help with the investigation now. Does this surprise you at all?
I mean, I was gobsmacked because my first inclination was to think, well, what could he do? I mean, you know, for over 2.5 weeks, Adrian, some of the best searchers in that state have been combing that reserve, the Carlton Reserve. They've had bloodhounds. They've had heat-seeking devices. They've had drones. They've had swamp buggies. They've had, you know, over a dozen different agencies with all their expertise looking for Brian Laundrie because the parents told us that's where he headed off hiking. Here's the problem. They told us he headed off hiking on Tuesday, the 14th of September, and then just in the last few days misremembered it and suggested, oh, maybe it's a day earlier on the 13th. So the reliability of the information coming from the Laundrie household is definitely something that begs scrutiny. So the fact that they would ask Christopher Laundrie, Brian's dad, to come on over to the reserve and give us a hand, I think it's odd. I think there's definitely some strategy going on there. Regardless, that was called off yesterday. That plan to have him help was called off yesterday. They hope it will return, they say. They hope they get a chance to, you know, jump in and, you know, help out.
We're ready to get answers to this and find Brian Laundrie. And I know that the conversation must continue for the sake of this story and this family getting closure. Ashley, thank you so much. We really look forward to watching this interview, this big interview tonight on Banfield. Of course, it airs at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central, right here on News Nation.
That was called off yesterday. That planned Laundrie household is definitely some
families. I think most of us come, I mean,
can I just say how pretty her hair is? I would love curls like that. That is like absolutely beautiful. I just had to say that. Your avatar in Molly's chat was very nice. Why, thank you. So, okay. I really want to see this Banfield, and I'm sorry that we can't, but maybe by the end of the stream, it'll be uploaded somewhere. But I really want to see it. I think it'll be interesting. But I'm not seeing it anywhere. It's on at 2 a.m. We can watch it again at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's only 4 hours away. All right. You missed me on Molly's. It was pretty funny. So Dad did the cross. The stepdad did the cross. Banfield actually, and I don't care for Banfield, but Banfield actually answered the question of that the FBI asked the father to help. I still think, and I said this earlier, it's definitely strategic, and he absolutely, I believe, was getting set up, like drop supplies off something. He wasn't close enough to see if all the things that were in his pants were still there. I couldn't tell. He was too far away. As Brian Enton said, though, and this is what I was talking about conspiracy theories. Nobody said anything about that they went to a different neighborhood because of a property that they owned. They probably, and this is just a guess, they probably went to a different neighborhood because you saw that he wanted to speak to the FBI agent. Maybe they just didn't want to be in front of the house. Maybe they didn't want to be where news cameras were, so they pulled over to a different neighborhood. That's most likely what happened. But from that, just because they went to a different neighborhood, conspiracy theories started that, oh, they were going to a different house that they own. That was never said anywhere. So those are the kind of conspiracy theories that are dangerous and that pop up for no reason. My guess, and I could be wrong, but my guess, he just went to that neighborhood so nobody was on them. You know, they didn't have the neighbors around. It looked like he wanted to talk to the FBI agent. But they know they're being tailed. They know they're being watched. So again, I go back to they're prisoners in their own home. I just saw a moth. They're prisoners in their own home, and that sucks. It's only 10:19 here. And I'm not going to stay on for 4 hours. That I can guarantee. I think the authorities are keeping quiet on this because it's much more involved. I mean, I agree with that. They owned that house prior. Where is the proof of this, that they owned some house prior? Because I don't believe that. And I think the media would know that. So I'm not buying that. Unless I see proof of that, I'm not buying that. I think that's a rumor that was made up somewhere. But they didn't stop at a house. They never stopped at a house. They stopped in the middle of the street. That's what I say, Pam. That's what I said too. That he dropped stuff off for his son. And they're either going to grab him, like that was the plan, to see if he's still alive. You know, let's drop some stuff off for him. But if he's smart, he's not going to take the bait. But he's been on the run a long time. I don't know. Something in my heart of hearts tells me he's alive, and if he's there, his time is coming, that he's going to get caught. What he chooses to do, I don't know. All right, so we can't watch Banfield because it's not out yet, which sucks. Or maybe, hold on. Nah, nobody's got clips on it.
So we're joined right now by Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield. Thank you for being with us.
That's the one we saw already. Nope. I don't think they could bug his house, but they could tap their phones. I think the FBI can do whatever they want, honestly. I thought about that too. I really think they'll do whatever they want to do. They want to bug a house, they'll bug a house. All right. So Joe doesn't have it on his channel. It's just not on yet.
And Brian, ran out of there.
Probably through the woods right here. Probably.
I haven't seen this yet.
All right, so let's retract this. Right there, in back of that house is where Laundrie lives. So you're saying last 2 Fridays ago, when during the protest, the day they reported missing,
Yep.
witnesses are saying Brian ran out of there.
Probably through the woods right here. Probably through the woods right here, and he hauled out, and the neighbors right there got it on surveillance.
So
They said they thought it was him.
So yeah, and so you're saying the police actually asked you about that photograph that's circling. Do you know if
They came back, what was it, Saturday? They came back the next day, and I thought I was in trouble because of the protest. Don't you remember? Like, the cop wants to talk to you. And
did they go to any other neighbors, do you think? Did they go?
They were put her inside. Yeah, put her inside. They were at, who else? They asked them, didn't they, Chris? And then the cops went over to Chris.
The cops were walking up and down the street.
So you guys think it was him?
Yeah, definitely. He was here.
I mean, to us, we think it looks like him too.
He was here.
Yeah.
I mean, we think.
He was here Friday, and as soon as it got dark, everybody was so concerned with the protest.
Yeah.
And instead of the cops blocking off this whole subdivision, they only focused on that one street. Well, who else is gonna be running down the street that fits his description during? You know, I mean, it could have been somebody who's like, "Oh shit, I want to see what's going on."
Yeah.
But I don't know. The cops came and they showed us the picture, and I was like, "That's him, dude."
Yeah, and then you're saying that neighbor there. I'm just gonna zoom in. That one with one right there is the one that has surveillance.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ask.
They have a camera facing the street. Right
Oh, they
there.
do have a camera. Did they provide the security to the police?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. Probably.
I'm not sure about that.
Interesting. All right, what are you guys' names? I just want to ask.
Jen and Richard.
Jen and Richard. God bless you guys. Thanks you for coming out,
luck.
and
I mean,
hopefully we can find this
I
guy.
just feel like they haven't ever dealt with this kind of situation before, and you know they couldn't do much about it. But I just think that he definitely got out right underneath their noses. I think the parents.
I
said,
think that day.
Yeah, by the way, we haven't seen him. And
Yeah,
he told
for
us
3
he was
days
going
prior.
here,
For
the 400-acre you know.
And
forest.
shame on them if they lied. The parents lied, because if he was in that house that day, you were wasting all these resources. You're sending police out on a goose chase, and then you know.
We think that's our opinion. I think he was here. I think he heard everything we were saying, and it's.
Well, that's interesting. What do you guys think? That was the neighbors. JLR said, I interviewed the neighbor last week. This was October 5th, who lives behind Brian Laundrie on Ulster Avenue, and told me witnesses seen Brian run out of the house in his backyard September 17th, the day his parents reported him missing, then run down the street. Claimed another neighbor got it on surveillance. A TSA employee confirmed with JLR that on 9/20, Brian was placed on a no-fly list. I don't know if it's true or not, though. I'm just looking at his Twitter. Okay, this is actually kind of interesting. He got an up-close look. They had just said that he was captured on a surveillance. Who?
Here.
What's that?
Is it present?
What?
Is it present?
Oh, put it inside.
Take my hat.
What?
Take mine.
Beautiful. Love you.
Love you.
Who caught him on surveillance? Oh, the neighbors? No, I know, but they never gave it to the police. That's why I'm not buying it. But Jonathan Lee Rich is who I don't like. Happened to go to the preserve. We always see like the aerial, but he actually has ground footage, which none of us have seen unless you've seen this video. So hold on. I guess there's no sound. See, but that's interesting, though. Okay, News Nation now has some clips of Banfield with Joe speak. I would love to see the whole thing. But the point of me showing this, though, this, like, we always see it from an aerial, or we always see it from, you know, from a different perspective. But seeing it, that even when it's dry, it's not really dry. It still looks wet. There's no way he's surviving there. No way. Not for 25 days. What does rebuffed mean? Where do you see Christy, where do you see
Welcome back to our special program. I want to remind everyone we are doing something special tonight in the wake of the developments in the Gabby Petito case. It is important to remember what's at the center of this case, and it is that young woman, Gabby, and her family, and how they are trying to process their new normal. And to that end, we've invited Aaron Runyon, Beth Holloway, and John Walsh to join us and have a conversation with Joe Petito. Joe, you know, you and I talked off camera earlier today about the new normal that you're in. You are so early in the journey. Is there any specific advice? Are there any particular questions that you can even think of at this early stage that these three fellow club members may be able to help you with?
And listen, I know the basics. I should be getting sleep, eating more, take time for me, but is there other things that I should be paying attention to? We have people talk to the kids and, myself and my wife, obviously, because trying to process this takes more than just one person. But I'd be asking, are there things that I'm missing at that point?
Beth, you have a son, right? Named Matthew. That was Natalie's older brother. I mean, you had to do what Joe is doing now, and the family. They have to deal with their other children and try to make sense of this for the other kids. The same with John Walsh. But Beth, just maybe touch on that for Joe and that, that task.
Well, when there are other siblings involved and other family members, you do have to be conscientious of that. But a lot of times, and I think I'm hearing from Joe to say that they've got a pretty good network and to help to nurture this, the family, which is so important because I think Joe's focus is, like he's saying, you tend to want to neglect yourself because you feel like you're in such a fight for justice and answers. But in order to seek the best justice for Gabby and to see this through, I always recommend that. And it was something that Harris Faulkner, I felt like she had to give me permission early on that it's okay to have those creature comforts for myself because we don't know how long the journey is in seeking justice and answers. Sometimes it's a marathon, Joe. Sometimes it happens, sometimes you have recovery of your loved one's remains and you have the perpetrator brought to justice and things are done fairly swiftly. But other times, we don't really know what we're settling in for. So, I'm really think that it's okay for us to tell you that it's okay to lay down your sword every once in a while and just nurture yourself a little so you can remain so strong for Gabby in seeing this through the end and seeing justice for her. And, other family members will help support and take up that caring for other individuals so you can really, really focus and stay proactive. And I think it's so important what you're doing, like what I mentioned at first. When we first are experiencing these tragedies, we're reactive and we're just reacting to everything. But now I feel like, Joe, you've taken it to being proactive. And that is the best step that I think that any person can do in searching for their loved one and getting justice and answers. So
it brings up a really good point, Beth, about the various stages along the way. And I don't know, Joe, where you and your family are at this point. I know during the funeral, Gabby's stepfather mentioned how hard it was to come back from Wyoming because he wanted to bring, Gabby back to you. And you, I would assume, have to be in the dark about some things because this is an open investigation. Help me to understand how you're managing sort of where you fall into the priority list of being informed about every step of the way.
We want answers. And we know we're not going to get the answers right away, especially with the way current events are, as they are this evening. So, again, we're a group of four. It's not just me. A lot of parents don't have that, So, the fact that we are four, we get to bounce things off each other and lean on each other. Especially if someone's having a bad day and you can notice that. We're like, you know what? Why don't we take a step back and we'll reevaluate and make sure things are, are okay. So we're trying to stay focused on things for the foundation. How can we honor Gabby? Making sure it's not meaningless to us, and, making sure that we can make a difference and make that change that we need to have happen. I know it's for a selfish reason, but, the outcome is still the same, that we want to, help and save people. We think we can actually make a big difference. There's already starting to be a lot of talk, a lot of people that are finding out ways to make plans to make sure that they leave their significant others in a safe manner, and that's huge for us. We just want to do more for that. We're seeing people tag Gabby Petito, and their cases are start coming, more to the top and being investigated, and as they should be. Every person should have the type of coverage, or at least close to it, you know, and we're starting to see that more and more, which is exciting, but we got a lot of work to do. Us, the networks, you know, if there's a network that's not dedicating a few moments to this or longer, as it should be, you know, and that's we should be writing, you know, as social media, tell them this is what we want to do, this is what we want to see. We want to make sure these kids come home, and we want them home quick. So things like that, making that change is going to be huge.
And for you, you know, there's still you're in the middle of the process of even trying to memorialize Gabby and have a funeral. You know, you had your memorial, but do you know if you're getting close to being able to bring her home and actually have that final funeral for Gabby?
We hope so. You know, we got some, I guess, got some more things that they're working out. I have no idea. But they do tell us it will be soon, sooner than later, which is exciting. And we just want to get together and escort her home properly. And this way we can do what we need to do as the four of us and really process it together and really lean on each other, because that's what's going to need to happen.
When we come back after the break, John Walsh, I want you to weigh in on that process of where you fall in the priority of police information during an investigation, during an active investigation, an open investigation that can sometimes go on for days and weeks and months and even years. John Walsh, Aaron Runyon, Beth Holloway, and Joe Petito after the break.
They never found Natalie Holloway's body, did they? They're still looking for her. Well, I don't know if they're still looking, but they never found her, right? Am I right on that? That they never found her? All right, so you're saying, yeah, Jordan's in prison. So you're saying it's on YouTube on News Now. All right. That's Fox. They don't have anything on here. Everything on here is old. There's nothing on here, Christy. I'm on News Nation now. It's old. Here it is. Oh, you got the whole thing. Here we go. We now have the whole thing we can watch. I really should change the title.
Tonight, a remarkable hour of television. Gabby Petito's father, Joe Petito, joins me live, along with 3 other parents who've suffered the worst loss, the worst pain any parent can fathom. Beth Holloway, Aaron Runyon, John Walsh. A man on the run finally emerged from their house today and decided to help in the search. Chris Laundrie, Brian's father, jumped in his red pickup and drove the 13 miles to the Carlton Reserve to point out their son Brian's favorite trails. That's according to their lawyer, who once again has changed the timeline of what the Laundries knew.
All right, let me just pause this for a second. My title's 90 Day Fiancé because I was a big 90 Day Fiancé fan, and Geoffrey Paschel got found guilty on all counts of domestic violence. He was taken away right from jail. The trial was insane. It was a 2-day trial, and I really did want to talk about it. But then I got caught up on this. So here we are. I think I'll change the title.
And when the Laundries knew it. The couple now says the day after Brian supposedly went hiking, that would be Monday, September 13th, they found his silver Mustang at the reserve in the parking lot with an abandoned citation on the window. 2 problems. For weeks, they've maintained that Brian went hiking on Tuesday, September 14th, which any parent can tell you would have been a devastating day. Your son has been gone for 24 hours. You discover his abandoned car. It is hard to believe it was just a date they simply forgot. Second, usually takes about 5 days before a car is cited as abandoned. And by their timeline in Northport, he'd only been there a day. So when did Brian really leave that little yellow house? Maybe as early as September 9th? Well, that would certainly present a whole other timeline and maybe a whole other search. And let's face it, when it comes to the Petito case, we all want answers and justice. But multiply how you feel right now by infinity. You won't even get close to how the Petito family feels. Grief, wrapped in anger and confusion, maybe even guilt, and all of it often on public display. My guests tonight are all members of what John Walsh has deemed the worst club in America. Parents who have lost their children to unspeakable violence. Aaron Runyon lost her 5-year-old daughter Samantha in 2002. Samantha was kidnapped from her own front yard in Orange County, California, and found dead the next day, 50 miles away. Her killer was arrested 2 days after that and now is serving a life term in San Quentin after originally being given the death penalty. Beth Holloway lost her daughter, Natalie, in 2005. And as you probably remember, Natalie was on a high school graduation trip to Aruba when she failed to show up for the flight home. Those suspects were ID'd almost immediately. The investigation turned into a cruel and fruitless odyssey that led to no one ever facing charges and Natalie's body never even being found. And John Walsh lost 6-year-old Adam in 1981. Adam disappeared from a Sears store in Florida, Hollywood, Florida. 2 weeks later, police found Adam's head in a drainage canal more than 100 miles away. Here, too, a suspect was caught. He confessed. He recanted. Evidence was tested. Evidence was lost. And in 1996, Adam's probable killer died in prison, serving life for 6 other murders. Aaron Runyon, Beth Holloway, John Walsh, I want to welcome all of you, and I want to also welcome to this conversation Joe Petito, father of Gabby. There is a lot of wisdom in this group, and it's our hope tonight that, Joe, you can share in the knowledge and the experience of your fellow guests. So I'm just going to start off, Joe, with a question I hope you're getting a lot these days, and that is, how are you doing? How is your family doing?
It's been kind of a whirlwind, you know, with all the media stuff that's been going on. But, you know, we actually just got back to our house in Vero Beach. So now the grieving process can really start. So today was a rough day, and I imagine there's going to be a lot more of those before they become good. So we'll see what happens.
Is it any consolation, although I can't imagine what consolation even.
Did you guys just see the bottom? Alexis Sharkey's husband committed suicide? Did you guys catch that? Watch the bottom.
Back to our house in Vero Beach, so now the grieving process can really start. So today was a rough day, and I imagine there's going to be a lot more of those before the.
Oh, that was last night? I didn't know that. Slain Instagram, Alex Sharkey's husband found dead. I did not know that.
Is it any consolation, although I can't imagine what consolation even feels like, to know that you are not alone in your journey?
No, it's not a consolation, but it is appreciated. As of right now, maybe later it will be, but as of right now, I mean, listen, there's a lot of support. We have a great support group, which I don't know if everyone else had, but we're able to kind of lean on each other, which is great, because there is 4 of us, and then family and friends, and social media has been crazy, in terms of supportive, so. Social media wasn't as prevalent as it was, today as it was back when all the other guests had their worst day of their lives. So,
John Walsh, you have become the face of fighting crime in America. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't know your story and why you embarked on the mission that you did to catch people who've done wrong. I think if anyone has sage advice for Joe Petito, it would without question be you. Is there something that you would like to start off the conversation saying?
Well, as you said earlier, Joe and his family have joined the Horrible Club. Myself and the other 2 ladies on tonight belong to the parents of murdered children. And I would say this to Joe. I've been watching him. He's handling it in his family with a lot of dignity and a lot of poise. It's the worst thing that you can imagine to happen, and I would say to him that a couple of harsh things that you have to realize is that pretty soon Brian Dirty Laundrie, and I call the Laundries Dirty Laundrie because they are so dirty. He's just a coward that probably beat to death a beautiful young girl. But you've got to be strong, because this is already starting to drop out of the news cycle. I've seen it on every missing child case that I've worked on. Elizabeth Smart, the FBI gave up on her and told Ed and Lois Smart that she was dead in the desert. They'd never find her body, and they should have a memorial. And Ed Smart said to me, John, should we give up? I said, no. I profiled her 17 times on America's Most Wanted. Found out the guy who took her, put the word out in a couple spot, watched America's Most Wanted, the 17th episode, and spotted her alive in Sandy, Utah. But the harsh reality is that I believe the public is going to be the key in social media in catching this horrible coward and his despicable parents, who are going to pay someday. They truly are dirty, the dirty laundries. I can't believe this guy's going out searching. Where was he trying to help before? It's just a giant ruse. I said it, that he was never in that swamp, and they spent $1.5 million of Florida tax.
Is he fucking kidding me? Like, for real? I'm dumbfounded at what I'm hearing. Like, are you serious, John Walsh? Wow. Just wow. Even Joe's face is like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Taxpayers' money and gave him 4 or 5 more days to get ahead. That Johnny Cochran wannabe Steve Bertolino, what a piece of crap lawyer he is. But anyway, I say to Joe and his family, murders of children's families wind up with terrible problems. I learned one thing: be kind and loving. You'll have a good day, your wife will have a bad day. Your family will be up one day, they'll be down. Stay healthy, get your sleep, because you're going to be the guy that's going to keep this story. You and Gabby's mother and your new wife and Gabby's new husband. It's going to fall on you to keep this guy's face in the media. That's how we find missing children. 80% of missing children are found because of pictures and on the media. I caught 1,422 of
All he's doing is promoting himself. He can't even get names right. He said Gabby's husband. Then he says your new wife. He's been with his wife 21 years. Like, all he wants to do is hear him fucking self-talk. Like, it's disgusting. Sorry, but I think he's gross. And he's just tooting his own horn.
Catchable guys that cops couldn't catch because of the public. We recovered 61 missing children. It's the public, television, social media that'll break this case. So I'm saying to Joe and his family, be strong. You're still going to have to battle to keep Brian's face out there. You know, he could stay out there for a long time, but I'll tell you what, that lawyer and those parents gave him such a head start. He left that house after they scrubbed the van, and when Daddy bought the camper top and they went out with Daddy and Mommy and the neighbors went, why would the dirty Laundries take their son in a tiny camper? Well, they took him to drop him off somewhere. That's my philosophy. We've gotten a lot of good tips. A lot of them, one of Gabby's former friends called up and said, nobody's talking about the fact that Brian said that he spent 3 months living out of a backpack on the Appalachian Trail. I think they maybe brought him up through Alabama.
John Walsh, everybody has said that. That has been talked about for a long time. Ugh. I can't with him.
Father probably did in that notorious camper, because when the camper came back in the pickup truck, he wasn't there. But they gave him a head start, I think, to Mexico. Could have gone across Alabama or across Louisiana. I caught 47 guys in Mexico. You can walk right across the border and head forever. I'm sure his parents got him as much money as they could. They got him burner phones that are untraceable. And I hate to say it, I love cops. 122 of them were killed in the line of duty so far this year, but they dropped the ball. He was never in that house. And that lawyer's sending everybody into that swamp. That's bullshit. But Joe and his family...
Yeah, I was just going to say, while having to go through the process that all four of you have gone through, and that is to finding justice and finding resolution, and that word everyone always uses, closure, which I really truly don't believe exists. Beth Holloway, 15 years. Yeah, 15 years, Beth, since Natalie did not make that flight. And there's no closure for you. And I just wonder about the process that you went through, that, the Klieg lights that were glaring for so long, and what your sage wisdom is as Joe begins his journey.
Well, first off, I have to just say to Joe that, Joe, you just made my heart just sink and took me back to 2005 when you said, you started off with, you haven't even had time to grieve yet. And the reason why, and you said it, you're just putting up the fight for justice and for finding answers. And I just know how hard that is and how hard those steps are. But I just commend you for standing so strong and knowing that there will be a time for grief later. And now, though, you're in the fight, as I said, the fight for answers and the fight for justice. And I'm just so, I know it's hard for you to come on camera and to put ourselves out there. This is not something that we signed up to do. We have no skills with it. And I know it's hard because you want to just be able to grieve, but that grief time does come later. And when people talk about closure, there's never closure. And there is no time frame that you can put on this, because we will never get over the loss of losing our loved ones. That never happens. So I think what it's about, though, is what you're doing, Joe, and that is standing strong, staying focused, and you're being proactive now. And I think when these tragedies first occur in our families, we're reactive to all the chaotic tips and leads and running around. But Joe, now it's proactive that you are, and it's hard to make that transition, and just standing strong and just knowing that the time for healing, it does come later. And like I said, we're never going to get over the loss of losing our loved ones. Our scars will be deep, and they will remain with us forever in our hearts and in our souls and in our minds. But those scars in time, with all the good work that you're doing and on behalf of Gabby and seeking justice for answers, they do, all this you're doing and will continue to do, it does help blur our deep scars. So being proactive, doing everything you can, meeting with poster development and just staying active and involved with the FBI and communicating and just being the best advocate you can for Gabby is just, I just feel like that's just what we as parents do. We just want to dig in and, we want to lay down and to grieve, but you know, the time is just not there for us to do that in the fight for justice and answers.
It's I've been so floored, Joe, by your resilience since so early in the case, getting the GabbyPetito.org Foundation out there and known, and telling people that it's your mission to make this have meaning. And your three guests tonight have done the same thing. And in this program, we're going to go over all of the good that the four of you have done and are doing. And Aaron, you know, it's been said that, you know, everybody grieves differently, and families, you know, just, you know, have a Thanksgiving dinner table and you can tell everybody has a different mood at any moment of the day. But in your grief as a family, grieving differently, tell me about the process that a family will go through as opposed to an individual.
It is, first of all, I just have to give Joe all my love and just know that there are so many millions of us who are thinking of your family and applauding the strength that you've shown and the unity that you've shown in the worst circumstance imaginable. So I was really happy to hear you say that you had a really good support network, because it is essential. Everybody does grieve, not just differently, but separately. It is a very personal, I think it's a sacred process. We all have our own connection, and for each person, their grief is going to look different. It's going to feel different. It will manifest in different ways, and to be able to be supportive of one another while you're all going through it alone and together it takes a lot of strength, but it's also, there's beauty in that. There is beauty in that, and I like to believe that our little girls, they see it, they feel it, they want it. That is the best way that we could possibly honor them, is to take care of one another and to take care of ourselves through this process. I think you all are doing a magnificent job. And I applaud you starting the foundation. I know I didn't realize how soon after Samantha was abducted that my family started the Joyful Child Foundation in her honor. And I didn't know it at the time, but it gave me a way to be able to take Samantha into my everyday in the new normal without me dwelling in the past. It gives us a way to focus all of that energy and passion, and I'm right there with you. We have to give it purpose because it's senseless. So it's up to us to create purpose out of something so senseless. And
we're looking at some of those pictures, Aaron, of your foundation.
That's what's on the screen right.
Let me just interrupt this for 1 second. A lot of people were asking who that woman was. On July 15th of 2002, Reunion was playing with a friend in her family's front yard when a man approached, then asking for help in finding a lost dog. After a short conversation, he grabbed Samantha, forced her into his car, and drove away. A day later, her nude body was found 50 miles south in Cleveland National Forest. She had been sexually assaulted and strangled. Police said the killer was extremely sloppy and left behind a mountain of evidence. Alejandro Avila of California was arrested 3 days after the abduction. His DNA was found on Samantha's body, and her DNA was found in his car. Avila had previously visited his girlfriend in the condo complex where Samantha lived, and had been previously acquitted of molesting his girlfriend's daughter and niece. Police found child pornography on Avila's laptop computer, and he had booked a motel room on the day of the murder, where it was believed that Samantha was killed. Avila's public defender argued during the trial that it was impossible for him to have kidnapped the girl, abused, murdered, and then dumped her body 50 miles away in the course of one day, as the prosecutor believed. On May 16th of 2005, jury returned a verdict of death. He's incarcerated at San Quentin State Prison on death row. So that's who that woman is. She's the mom.
right now, the website, The Joyful Child. I have to say to all four of you that in researching for this program tonight, I was so buoyed by the work that you have all done, and Joe, the work that you're embarking on. So just quickly before we go to break, Aaron Runyon's website is The Joyful Child, and John Walsh, you'll all know, he and his family were the foundational purpose behind the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the work that that organization has done. And Beth Holloway, you started the Natalie Holloway Resource Center at the National Museum of Crime and Punishment in Washington. These are remarkable feats.
Wait, she started the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children? Did I hear that right?
That really have yielded good in society. And I know, Joe, that's important too. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the good that can come, the meaning that can be found, despite the horror, and the club that John Walsh nails it. It's the club you never want to be in, and you never invited the membership. We're back right after this.
She was 5.
The new normal that you're in, you are so early in the journey. Is there any specific advice? Are there any particular questions that you can even think of at this early stage that these 3 fellow club members may be able to help you with?
And listen, I know the basics. I should be getting sleep, eating more, take time for me, but is there other things that I should be paying attention to? We have people talk to the kids and, myself and my wife, obviously, because trying to process this takes more than just one person. But I'd be asking, are there things that I'm missing at that point?
Beth, you have a son, right? Named Matthew. That was Natalie's older brother. I mean, you had to do what Joe is doing now, and the family. They have to deal with their other children and try to make sense of this for the other kids. The same with John Walsh. But Beth, just maybe touch on that for Joe and that, that task.
Well, when there are other siblings involved and other family members, you do have to be conscientious of that. But a lot of times, and I think I'm hearing from Joe to say that they've got a pretty good network and to help to nurture this, the family, which is so important because I think Joe's focus is, like he's saying, you tend to want to neglect yourself because you feel like you're in such a fight for justice and answers. But in order to seek the best justice for Gabby and to see this through, I always recommend that. And it was something that Harris Faulkner, I felt like she had to give me permission early on that it's okay to have those creature comforts for myself because we don't know how long the journey is in seeking justice and answers. Sometimes it's a marathon, Joe. Sometimes it happens, sometimes you have recovery of your loved one's remains and you have the perpetrator brought to justice and things are done fairly swiftly. But other times, we don't really know what we're settling in for. So, I'm really think that it's okay for us to tell you that it's okay to lay down your sword every once in a while and just nurture yourself a little so you can remain so strong for Gabby in seeing this through the end and seeing justice for her. And, other family members will help support and take up that caring for other individuals so you can really, really focus and stay proactive. And I think it's so important what you're doing, like what I mentioned at first. When we first are experiencing these tragedies, we're reactive and we're just reacting to everything. But now I feel like, Joe, you've taken it to being proactive. And that is the best step that I think that any person can do in searching for their loved one and getting justice and answers. So
it brings up a really good point, Beth, about the various stages along the way. And I don't know, Joe, where you and your family are at this point. I know during the funeral, Gabby's stepfather mentioned how hard it was to come back from Wyoming because he wanted to bring, Gabby back to you. And you, I would assume, have to be in the dark about some things because this is an open investigation. Help me to understand how you're managing sort of where you fall into the priority list of being informed about every step of the way.
We want answers. And we know we're not going to get the answers right away, especially with the way current events are, as they are this evening. So, well, again, we're a group of four. It's not just me. A lot of parents don't have that, So the fact that we are four, we get to bounce things off each other and lean on each other. Especially if someone's having a bad day and you can notice that. We're like, you know what? Why don't we take a step back and we'll reevaluate and make sure things are okay. So we're trying to stay focused on things for the foundation. How can we honor Gabby? Making sure it's not meaningless to us. And making sure that we can make a difference and make that change that we need to have happen. I know it's for a selfish reason, but the outcome is still the same, that we want to help and save people. We think we can actually make a big difference. There's already starting to be a lot of talk, a lot of people that are finding out ways to make plans to make sure that they leave their significant others in a safe manner, and that's huge for us. We want to do more for that. We're seeing people tag Gabby Petito, and their cases are start coming, more to the top and being investigated, and as they should be. And every person should have the type of coverage, or at least close to it. And we're starting to see that more and more, which is exciting. But we got a lot of work to do. Us, the networks. If there's a network that's not dedicating a few moments to this or longer, as it should be, and that's we should be writing, as social media, tell them this is what we want to do. This is what we want to see. We want to make sure these kids come home, and we want them home quick. So things like that, making that change is going to be huge.
And for you, there's still you're in the middle of the process of even trying to memorialize Gabby and have a funeral. You had your memorial, but do you know if you're getting close to being able to bring her home and actually have that final funeral for Gabby?
We hope so. We got some, got some more things that they're working out. I have no idea. But they do tell us it will be soon, sooner than later, which is exciting. And we just want to get together and escort her home properly. And this way we can do what we need to do as the four of us and really process it together and really lean on each other, because that's what's going to need to happen.
When we come back after the break, John Walsh, I want you to weigh in on that process of where you fall in the priority of police information during an investigation, during an active investigation, an open investigation that can sometimes go on for days and weeks and months and even years. John Walsh, Aaron Runyon, Beth Holloway, and Joe Petito after the break.
That's what you have to hold on to.
That is Aaron Runyon, one of my guests tonight, visiting the site in 2012 where the body of her daughter Samantha was found 10 years earlier. Aaron, for the rest of us watching that, it's very, very hard to process how you did it, how you make it through that, how you made the 10 years. And it's a simple question. I don't know if there's an easy answer. Does it get easier?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Those first, what the Petito family is going through right now, the first several months, it's so surreal. Losing your child in a sudden death is incredibly difficult to handle. And for it to be a violent death is a whole nother layer. And then you add the international interest and the media and all of the questions coming at you from every possible source. It's overwhelming. And I remember very vividly thinking it's like I was walking underwater. Like the sounds were muffled, the visual, everything was gray. It takes a long time to process this, and yes, you get better at it. You definitely do. You learn how to anticipate triggers, and you will learn. I really tried hard. I had to really focus for my young children at home to be able to think about my child in a way that reminded me of her joy, and not just how she was taken, and not just that she was gone, but to be able to remember them in a way that brings you back to the present and the gift that they will always be in your life, that it never goes away. And they are with us in their own way.
John Walsh, I was just looking at the math, and it was just in July, it was 40 years since Adam disappeared. Can you reflect on what Aaron just said about the change and how you as a person change, how the people around you change, and what strength you gathered to get to these 40 years?
You're changed irreparably. Both these ladies have been through it. I mean, I know them very well. I know their cases. Natalie Holloway is a case that haunted me for years. I mean, here's Beth. She didn't get a body to bury. She did, and nobody, the jerk that...
I was going to say that. You know, in all fairness, Natalie Holloway has it the worst. Beth Holloway has it the worst. Because even though he never found the whole body, they all have a body to bury. They all got justice. She never got justice. She never even got the body. She never got justice. She got a recording that it could possibly of how it happened. But I feel horrible for Beth Holloway. No justice, no body, nothing.
Murdered her daughter is in jail in Chile for another murder of another young woman. He escaped from Aruba. The cops let him leave Aruba. The FBI messed up so bad, and he left and went to another country. So I know these two women very well, but I want to say this, a couple things to Joe, and I want to say to Gabby's mother and her new husband, and Joe and his new wife. You know, you got to check everybody in the family.
It's not his new wife.
A grandpa, an uncle, an older sibling, a younger sibling that's hurting just as bad, almost as bad as you are. But nobody wants to make daddy or mommy cry. I've talked to thousands of parents of murdered children, and they always say the same thing. I overlooked the other kids. I overlooked the big brother. I didn't get help for them. No one wants to stir it up for mom or dad, so you have to reach out into the family. And Aaron was right. You have to celebrate those years that you had Gabby, and they celebrate the years they had those two girls. I was lucky to have Adam for 6 years. He made my whole life. He was our first child, and we've had other children since, and I'm a great, proud grandpa. But you're changed irreparably, and I say to them, you celebrate her life. Celebrate. Don't think about the one day that a horrible weasel coward who's out there running around and hiding that did something terrible in your life. You know, people gave us bad advice. Take down his toys. Take down his pictures. You'll forget. Da-da-da-da. Time heals all. You're hurt irreparably. You've got a chunk of your heart taken out, and birthdays and Christmases makes it bleed, but you survived through. I was on the path for justice, and I hope Joe and his whole family doesn't have to wait for this creep to be caught and tried. It took me 27 years to get a hold of the files in Adam's case. Talk about waiting for justice. I know all about waiting for justice. That's why I say we got to keep the pressure on this creep and get him before he hurts somebody else. But I say to these families, celebrate the lives of those children, celebrate their birthdays, the holidays. They were a wonderful part of your life. Don't dwell on the bad day. But worry about all the other relatives that love them so much. But I will say this, it's not about closure, Joe. You're on the same path I am, and men treat it differently than women do. We got all that testosterone, and we want to go out and find the bastard who did it. We want to kill him, all those things that go through your head. And it can't happen. I met a father who felt the same way I did, and he had a gun, and the cops came and brought him. He came to hear me speak, and I thought about it, and I don't know how I spurred it out, but I said, if you could have your son back for 1 minute, because you're here trying to kill the two guys at this trial with a gun, you're drunk, you're going to shoot him in the courtroom. If your son could come back for 1 minute, he would say, Dad, don't do this. Don't do this. You can't kill somebody else and make it better for me. Celebrate my life and make sure that you remember me for what I was. So, Joe, you're going to be on a long journey. I hope it isn't as painful as Beth Holloway's. She hasn't gotten any, forget closure, she hasn't gotten any justice yet. Erin got some justice, and again, her case was a repeat offender that I've been talking about forever, a guy whose charges were dropped for molesting other little girls. I can only think her daughter might be alive if the criminal justice system worked better for the bad guys that prey upon children, but it's a long haul. But you know what? You have a lot of people supporting you. This case has grabbed the American public, and we have to keep it alive as much as since Elizabeth Smart. I mean, it's really strange because I deal with and profile all kinds of missing women, and nobody profiles Black and Hispanic missing women. It's always the blonde girls and the blonde Adam Walsh, Elizabeth Smart. That's a huge problem. I've always been colorblind, and America's Most Wanted on my new show. Nobody cares about those missing women. They don't get the publicity. But Joe, you got a good network around you, and you got support. Celebrate her birthday and stay on that hunt, because I'll tell you what, after 27 years, it made a lot of difference to my wife and I, Reve and I, and our grown children. That ended the chapter. We knew the guy that killed Adam and 6 other people. He finally paid his price. So you got to stay strong, but be good to each other. Be really good to each other.
Yeah. When we come back after the break, there is that other question in the legal justice system, and that is, does the death penalty help bring a sense of justice? And again, that word keeps creeping in, closure. What exactly would it mean? This is a group that is unlike any other. It is a group not one of us ever wants to belong to, and they didn't either, and yet they are there, they are together. Joe, I keep thinking as I hear this incredible you know, an insightful wisdom from the people on the screen right now. I'm hoping it is helpful at a time when I think this is invaluable information. Is it something you can pocket away?
It is. It's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to come on. You know, I just, like I said before, I just flew into Florida today. And in fact, I think I got in at about 8:30 this evening. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to do it, because I wanted to get that insight. I actually want to get their contact information to, you know, afterwards too. I can, you know, maybe possibly bounce things off of, you know, when I am seeing something, or if I have a question, because this is, it's just like nothing I've ever heard, you know, nothing I've ever seen, nothing I've ever felt. And there's only a few people that can share it. And it's the people that are on the screen, and I'll forever be indebted to them.
I have a strong feeling that as soon as we sign off, those phone numbers will be in your inbox, and I feel like I already have consent from the 3 guests on the screen. You all have been so magnanimous, not just to Joe Petito, but to others as well. I've been in this business 33 years. I've interviewed all 3 of you several times, and you always manage to just, in the face of adversity, display such remarkable grace and composure. And so I'm also very thankful that you agreed to do this for Joe Petito and his family. I want to put a question on the screen if I can. It came from a social media follower, Mike K on Facebook, and I think, Beth, I think you'd be really good on this one. He asks, what have you learned about the world that the rest of us don't know, Beth?
What have you learned about the world that the rest of us don't know? How? I mean, if we're talking like in reference of tragedies and injustice and just maddening things that can happen and without our control and just, you know, it's like we said, like even John said when we started out, I mean, no parent can picture themselves being in Joe's shoes, John's shoes, Erin's shoes, or my shoes. And it's something that, and even that we're all in these similar tragedies, I can't even imagine to being in Joe's shoes. You know, he's still looking for his daughter's killer, his perpetrator. And so, you know, we all have similar tragedies, but we all have different outcomes and we're in different levels of it. And it's maddening that you can't get to those answers. You just feel like, and I'm sure, Joe, you get into that mode to where you feel like you're about to get the answer. You're about to get it. Seems like it's always around the corner. And then you just keep turning and turning and it's not there. But you just don't want to lose hope. And I've always just tried to really embrace hope with every anonymous tip or lead to feel like it's getting us closer and closer to answers and the justice that we are seeking. So it's a tough journey. And like John Walsh said, it could be at 27 years, 5 years, 2 years. But here's one thing I've learned. In just the four of us in our tragedy, whatever we've experienced, I do now know that we all hurt the same in the tragedy that we're experiencing. No matter how long the tragedy has lasted, we all hurt the same because that is the reference we have of pain in that particular moment of tragedy that we're experiencing. So that is the commonality that we all share as victims who have their loved ones victims of crimes and such heinous crimes.
Joe, I saw you nodding. It looked as though you really thought that resonated, Joe. Tell me.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotions that are going through you, and like this is such a rush and not taking the time and all this other stuff, but it's a roller coaster, and yeah, I don't know how I'm going to be tomorrow and all this other stuff, but it's good to know that, like I said, I'm on the right path, and if I can stay focused with the foundation and stuff, I think good things will come. If I stay out of that rage and anger and stuff, you guys have gone through these range of emotions. You're still going through these range of emotions. I'm sure still, but at least there are people out there that understand that I can bounce questions off of, because I'll tell you, sometimes you just try and make sense of it, and there's nothing you can say. There's nothing that you can make sense in your head about it. So I appreciate it.
When we come back after the break, there are
Ashley.
4 foundations that these 4... Oh, go ahead. Just quickly, John. We're just going to fit in a quick break. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say 2 things. I found out that most of the people on the planet are good, but there's some really evil, horrible people. America, the richest, most powerful country in the world, we're #1 in sex trafficking of children and women. So there's a lot of really bad people out there. And I know Joe is busting to ask me. You can ask the cops. I love cops, but they need to talk to you and tell you what's going on. There are 2 women here whose cases were so-so. Beth Holloway's case was almost as badly handled as Adams. If I could roll the clock back, I'd be right there saying, you got to tell me. I've passed laws that the cops have to, and the DAs, they have to talk to you. You need to know. You're not going to tell anybody else. You're not going to say it to the media and blow the case. And if they made mistakes, you have the right to ask them. How did they let this guy get out the front door? The #1 suspect, FBI and these local cops. The guy went on the run way early before they ever knew he was in the house. Joe, you have the rights. You can sit down and say, my wife and my new wife and Gabby's mother, we need to know what's going on here. We don't need to find it out on the media. Treat us with some, on television, treat us with some dignity. And I can't wait to meet you, Joe, because I've walked in those shoes. I've walked in your shoes. There's a lot
we're going to make that happen.
Yep.
Without question, we're going to make that happen. When we come back after the break, also, I want to highlight the 4 remarkable foundations that these 4 remarkable people have launched and are launching. Given the death penalty, but he's really serving life in prison. Is that helpful? Is it hurtful? Does it make a difference?
I think that it's really important to focus on the person that you lost and not get too stuck hoping for a certain outcome. In terms of what justice looks like, because that word becomes very nebulous in the whole process. Mm-hmm. It takes so long to get to the end of the trial, the sentencing, and for me, it doesn't matter. What matters is that he is never going to be able to hurt another child. That matters. And in the state of California, the death penalty is very rarely used, but we'll see if that sentence holds.
Joe,
as long as he can never hurt another child, that's all I care about.
Amen. Amen. Joe, I've got about 40 seconds until this show goes to black, but I want you to have the last word about what you'd like the legacy of Gabby to be.
I'd like to see cases of missing children of all colors rise to the top. It doesn't, pick a story, exploit the story, push it out. We have to make that change. And to be honest, we got to do better with teaching our young ones, boys and girls, on domestic violence and signs, how to act better. We got to be better. We have to make the change, and it's going to start with them. And we're going to make a big difference.
Joe Petito, John Walsh, Beth Holloway, Aaron Runyon, God bless all four of you. Thank you for doing this, and I will connect all four of you after the program. Thank you.
Well, there you go. That was actually really good. Except for John Walsh. I don't care for John Walsh at all, whatsoever. I know everybody says he has a right to be like this. No, he doesn't. I don't see Natalie Holloway like that. I don't see Aaron like that. I don't see Joe Petito like that. All I see is John Walsh like that. So I'll leave it at that. But that was actually pretty good. So, because I've been on way longer than expected, let's get into the other half of my title. So, in case you guys didn't know who Geoffrey Paschel is, he was from Tennessee. I'll show you a picture of him. Whoop. Okay. I'm just going to do it like this because it's easier. So they were on 90 Day Fiancé together. A year prior to him being on the show, they actually tried to kick him off the show because of this domestic violence incident that he had with his ex-girlfriend. After he had a kid with someone else, it was like this weird story. But he had these charges pending from 2019. And you weren't really sure what to make of it. So he goes to trial. The trial was insane. The prosecutor, I truly believe, was brand new. Did they prove his case beyond a reasonable doubt? I don't think so. I think the woman lied, and I think he lied. The trial was on for 2 days. You could see it on court TV. And he was found guilty on all charges. Kidnapping charge, domestic violence charge, and I forgot what the other charge was. Now I forgot. I remembered it earlier when I went live. But they had the 90 Day Fiancé franchise wouldn't let him come back on during the show, during the after show, and a lot of people wanted him kicked off. But they wouldn't let him come on the tell-all because they said that, these domestic violence charges, he is very narcissistic. It is so obvious. I never liked him when you watched him. She was awesome. Varya. She was from Russia. She was great. He was an asshole. And you could tell what a blatant narc he was. And he was just creepy. Everything was about him. So he's in trial, and it's too much to get into now that I spent so much time on Petito. But he's in trial, and even in trial, you can see that narcissism, and you can see this holier than thou. He actually tried to say that this girl walked into a wall. And I'm sitting there going, walls don't hit back. Nobody is so drunk that they bang into a wall and get all these marks on them. But he expected everyone to believe it. He really thought this jury was going to buy it. The whole courtroom, nobody was wearing a mask. He's got a mask up to here. Makes me think that he didn't want anybody seeing his facial expressions, and he didn't want anyone to see him smile. So that's why he wore this mask that covered his entire face. And nobody else wore one. Not even the judge wore one. Nobody else wore one. When they handcuffed him, they made him take his mask off. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Completely fucking cement wall. I know he can fight it. He can definitely... I don't think he'll get a mistrial. He will definitely appeal it, but I don't think he'll get a mistrial. What's the mistrial based on? They keep letting Angela stay on. Yeah, but Angela didn't have domestic violence charges. I mean, these are pretty deep charges. He had kidnapping, domestic violence. And his story, though, I think they both lied. I don't think that it was just him lying. I think she lied too. Then the prosecutor comes back after closing statements are done. The prosecutor comes back and she's like all amped up, but she just didn't sound credible to me. She sounded new. I don't know. It just seemed like the whole 2 days was just one big farce of the jury, of the system. The jury came back in like 2 hours with a guilty verdict on all things. I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't think the prosecution proved their theory beyond a reasonable doubt. I just don't. And it's a great case to talk about for me personally because of, did they prove it beyond a reasonable doubt? I don't think so. Did I think he's lying? Yes. Do I think she's lying? Yes. Do I think they're both full of shit? Yes. Do I think the prosecution sucked? Yes. But we can't judge people. You can't be on a jury. And that's another big point I need to bring up. Hold on. You can't be on a jury and base it on your personal history. Everybody does, but you can't. As someone that went through not a physical relationship, but a very emotional, financial, and psychological abusive relationship, and that dragged on through the courts, I would love to use my personal feelings and my own personal story when judging someone else. But when you're in a jury, you can't do that. And you know what, about a mistrial, maybe you can get a mistrial because the prosecution says that you're going to base this on facts and some common sense. I was cringing. What prosecutor tells somebody to base it on common sense? No. And I'm surprised there was no objection. I'm surprised that was allowed because no, you can't base your feeling on common sense. Are you going to naturally? Yes. But you can't base it on common sense. You have to base it on facts. What are the facts? Were the facts proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did this? No, they weren't. So I find it very, very hard to believe that he was, they were dating. How was he guilty of kidnapping? It just, so many pieces of it did not add up. And so many pieces of it are like a law school's everything you don't do in a trial was this trial. I was blown away at some of the shit that I was seeing. Facts are all that matters. Exactly. The prosecution literally said, and we're going to base it on some common sense. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on one second.
Things that Mr. Ivan was heavily on. Think about who gave their phone. They sent these messages. Miss Wilson sat there and told you she had nothing to hide. Records. Nothing emerged. That no one else has anything to do with but him, that merely just say a name, December 22nd, no. Provided by him. Oh. Nothing emerged from her records. I also want to talk about what Mr. Isaac said. It's been open. They want to be transparent with you all. I want to talk talk about some of the things that Mr. Paschel was not very transparent about. First, if you remember when, about even the simplest thing, I want you to think back at the YouTube channel. No. Oh, well, I don't think I have. I mean, interviews. I don't know if you call them interviews. I don't know. Maybe some people post them, things like that. A date and a name. Think about when I asked him about his testimony in his prior civil depositions. 3 weeks before this assault took place, he sat up there on the stand, he read his own statement, and he still wouldn't answer my questions. Well, I don't even know if this is the Kristens. It just says Kristen. How do we know who these messages came from? Think about how open and honest this defendant was on the stand when I was asking him the simplest of questions. He couldn't remember what he said in a custody dispute for his own children, but wants you to believe every single detail of the night in question as he gave it to you. But he couldn't remember anything, couldn't remember doing interviews only a couple of months ago, couldn't remember any of that. I want you to think about how honest and open the defendant's been. Go back and watch the body cam. He claims today that, yeah, she had some redness on her forehead. It was a little bit raised. Talking to the officers, he hadn't seen her face. I didn't show Mr. Paschel the pictures of the injuries that he claims he didn't see. I've talked to Mr. Isaacs about the fact that he didn't hear from a... We talked about that in Fort Dyer, didn't we? This is not how you see it. Ms. Wilson got up there and she said, I went to the hospital. Say it on that initial emergency personnel. She said she's going. Waited there with her. I drove her. She had a concussion. Not like that. No one's surprised. We didn't need to call a doctor in to say. She told you. That doctor couldn't have told you how that concussion came. There's no way Mr. Isaacs would have let a doctor say, well, this is from an assault, or this is from running into a doorway. There's no way. She told you she had a concussion. So the fact that a doctor was not put on that point known. This isn't CSI. Like I said, we talked about this before. That's not how it happens in the real world. She told you she went to the hospital. Ms. Gooch told you she took her to the hospital, and she took her. Simple as that. And when you look at those pictures, look at that knot on her head, no. Ladies and gentlemen, this case has been long and drawn out mainly because of the arguments of the attorneys, and there's a lot of things.
This is it.
Objection. Can we approach?
Well, I'm assuming the objection by the defense attorney in this part of the state's rebuttal argument is that it sounded bad to say because of arguments by the attorneys. Let's listen.
Last couple of days, mainly because the arguments between all of us sitting up here at the table, the attorneys and everything like that. There's a lot of things we'll agree on and a lot of things we won't. But at the end of the day, this decision is going to be based on the evidence and your own common sense, like I said before.
Right there. Your decision's going to be based on evidence and a bit of common sense. No, bitch. Nothing should be based on common sense. Right there could be a mistrial. I cannot believe that she said for the jury to base their decision on common sense. Wow. Just wow. That very well could cause a mistrial. I was dumbfounded. I'm still dumbfounded. We can't watch together. Court TV will strike me. I'm still dumbfounded that she actually said, let's base this on a little common sense. No, absolutely not. Nothing should be based on common sense. Facts only. Total facts only. Kim, you can watch it on Court TV. I can't play it. I only showed you guys so you could see who it was. But Court TV will strike me. I've been struck by them before. So, yeah, I'm dumbfounded that this prosecution said that. Is that enough for a mistrial? That I'm not sure. But I think it is. I really do. I think that right there can cause a mistrial. That is an error in the law. Somebody should have stopped that. I don't know who this prosecutor is, but that's not good. Common sense, exactly. Savannah, exactly. Like, who's to say one person's common sense is better than the other? I think half the people in the world have no common sense, and they're idiots. And you can't base your decision on common sense. And when the prosecution tells a jury that you have to use common sense, it's like, holy shit, you did not just say that. But yeah, she did. So very, very interesting trial. The defense attorney was great. He was very like flashy. This was actually her second closing. She closed yesterday and she was very lame, but after the defense gave a very like polished, a really good closing, she came back with some emotion and, you know, this can't happen. And so the big thing was that he forged his court documents. He forged these phone messages. She went on and on and on about how he forged his phone messages. If you really want to watch a fun trial, I hate to put it like that, but most trials are like so boring. This one is not. They're excited. The defense attorney is slick, you know, Mr. Suave, and it's a good trial. So on that note, I am going to close out because I have been on for almost 2 hours. I didn't expect to be on that long. That will cause demonetization. Not good. The way you know people have no common sense is go for a drive. Yeah, right? Ain't that the truth? Yeah. I don't care about demonetization, but yeah, Court TV will strike me. They always do. They struck me once. It was pretty bad. I fought with them for 3 months. So on that note, I am out. I will see you guys tomorrow. I want you guys to watch this so we can actually talk about it. I'm telling you, it's a trial worth watching. And I don't like a lot of trials. A lot of trials are boring, but they're not. It's actually really good. So on that note, I will see you guys tomorrow. Hopefully Brian Laundrie is found. And like I said earlier, I didn't know Alexis Sharkey's husband killed himself. What a pussy, like real punk ass bitch. I will keep you guys up to date on when I get word from Gabby's family. Now, in all reality, I don't need their permission to donate $5 out of every candle, but I really do want to make a Gabby candle. And I have a couple of different scents in a teal. It was actually started as a favor for a friend who's my best friend in the whole wide world. Her niece was very, very close with Gabby, like for real close. And so I'm making her a candle, and that's where the idea stemmed from. So Alexis Sharkey's husband, they went to give him a arrest warrant, and he was killed. He committed suicide. So real punk ass bitch. So again, like I said, I'm waiting on word from the family. I am going to send them a couple of candles and just waiting on word. So that's it. I will see you guys later. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful night and peace out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.